So we're here in Catherine's garden, and this is a really good example of a garden that's gone pretty wild. You know, we've got a lot of bramble growth coming in, quite a lot of nettle, and yeah, it's all going quite wild, which is actually good for the wildlife. So we like that. But if we really let it go, the brambles would just take over because they are what can be referred to as native invasives. So they're native plants that would be in balance with the local ecosystem, but you know, thousands of years ago. But because we've lost all of our big herbivores and things that would eat the brambles and keep them under control, in our garden they'll just go mad and take over. And there's a plot over there next door, a bit of land that is all bramble, dense bramble, which can be good for birds nesting. But in this area, because we've got that right next door for the birds, we want to just keep on top of the brambles here and keep it clear. So if your garden has gone a bit wild, a bit mad, what I would suggest is just picking a small area to control first and then work from there. So rather than feeling overwhelmed and think, oh, I've got to do the whole thing, and it sort of turns to a big thing in your head, just pick a small area and just create a little bit of control in that area, cut the brambles back, you know, in an area, and then you can, you know, put a little bench in and just enjoy the space and enjoy the wildlife that you'll have in the space, especially if you let it go a bit wild. And then, so options we spoke through. So yeah, getting on top of the brambles, and then we're also looking at what else we could do in this garden. And we spoke with Catherine about putting a green screen hedgerow along the back, native hedgerow, things like hawthorn with berries and hawthorn and blackthorn with the blossom. We also spoke about putting climbers up the other fence. There's a railing fence over here, and potentially putting climbers up, such as clematis or hops. And we also spoke about putting a pond in. Now there's quite a lot of trees over this garden, but we thought you could still actually get a pond in here because there's enough light. You will have to take the leaves out. So these are all options that we could do, and if we had a lot of time to create this wildlife garden, those are things I'd definitely recommend. But the thing that Catherine was really drawn to was putting in a herb bed. So this is herbs that you can use for your cooking, but they're also really good for pollinators. So things like mint, marjoram, oregano, thyme, they've all got good flowers for pollinators, and it will create a habitat in that way, but you can also use them in the kitchen. So today we're here, we're going to clear some of the space, try and knock the brambles back a bit in the small area we can, and then build a little herb bed. And then from there, you've got a little bit of control and you can build out, keep on top of the brambles. I'm all for keeping it a bit wild, but it's just keeping that balance. So this area has a lot of grass in, but the brambles were taking over it, and we've reclaimed this little bit of lawn. And you can see there's lots of brambles up coming through. We've been pulling out what we can, but there are still some roots in there. But if you just keep mowing this and keep strimming it, the brambles will keep trying to grow back, and each time you cut them, you take energy out of their root system. But the grass likes being cut, it will survive, it's used to being cut. So if you keep mowing it or keep strimming it, eventually the brambles will die out and you'll be left with a lawn area. So it's just a little bit of maintenance. You don't have to dig up all the roots then, you just suck the energy out of the brambles by repeated cutting. When you start clearing your garden, you'll probably end up with a lot of bramble brash, and like here we ended up with a few branches and deadwood. And I personally wouldn't worry about, you know, paying for green waste disposal or anything like that. Just pile it up, pile all the brambles up. You can collect them together with a rake or a pitchfork. Use gloves to carefully put them in a corner with the deadwood, and that will compost down. It'll actually become a really good habitat and refuge for loads of insects, hedgehogs, slow worms. So rather than, you know, trying to export all that waste, just find if you've got a nice little nook, we've just put it in this corner for all your green waste. That's the way to deal with it. So we've started off using shears. Now these are like essentially massive scissors, these shears, and they're really good for dealing with the thinner vegetation, sort of fluffy grass and leaves, things that are a bit thinner, and you can just hack away and sort of snip back that sort of vegetation. If you're dealing with something bigger, anything that's too big for the shears, but anything up to the size of your thumb, you want to use loppers to get the bigger brambles. So if you're doing a bit of clearance in your garden, it shouldn't cost too much to get a couple of these, and then you can get a lot done. But yeah, it's just choosing the right tool for the right job.